Nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy town, the Golden Sunset Motel stood as an enigma, a relic from a time long past. Its faded sign, once vibrant and inviting, now creaked ominously in the wind. Its paint had weathered, peeling to reveal a history marred by the passage of time. For Rachel, a weary traveler seeking respite from a storm, the motel seemed like a beacon of hope amid the darkness. As she stepped into the dimly lit lobby, a chill ran down her spine. The air was thick, heavy with a sense of foreboding. A disheveled man named Walter greeted her, his eyes distant and hollow. "Welcome to the Golden Sunset Motel," he mumbled, handing her a key. "Room 13. It's the only one available." Inside her room, Rachel tried to shake off her unease. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and shadows danced along the edges of her vision. The clock on the nightstand ticked relentlessly, each sound echoing in the stillness. Exhausted, she lay down, her eyes heavy, but sleep remained elusive. As the night wore on, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The lights flickered, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Rachel heard faint whispers, as if the very walls held a sinister secret. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness, and a cold breeze swept through the air. Rachel's heart raced as she fumbled for her phone, using its dim glow to navigate the room. A sense of dread settled over her as she heard footsteps outside her door. Heavy, deliberate footsteps that sent a shiver down her spine. She backed against the wall, her breath shallow, as the doorknob began to turn slowly. The door swung open, revealing a figure shrouded in darkness. Rachel's voice caught in her throat as she stumbled back, her eyes wide with terror. The figure's eyes gleamed with an otherworldly intensity, a chilling smile playing on its lips. Rachel's instincts kicked in as she dodged the figure's lunge, her fear giving way to a surge of adrenaline. She grabbed a nearby lamp and swung it with all her might, the room erupting in chaos as the figure evaded her attack. Objects flew through the air, crashing to the ground with a deafening clatter. Desperation fueled Rachel's actions as she bolted toward the window, her heart pounding. She smashed the glass, ignoring the cuts that marred her skin, and climbed out onto the rain-soaked ground. The figure pursued her relentlessly, its laughter echoing through the storm. Rachel's breath came in ragged gasps as she sprinted through the motel grounds. Lightning illuminated her path, revealing an old shed at the edge of the property. Gasping for air, she stumbled inside and slammed the door shut, her chest heaving as she tried to steady herself. Her flashlight beam revealed a collection of dusty old journals, each filled with handwritten entries that told a chilling tale. The motel, it seemed, had once been a sanctuary for a cult that worshipped a malevolent entity. They had conducted dark rituals in the very rooms Rachel had passed through, and the figure she had encountered was a manifestation of their evil. Determined to survive, Rachel emerged from the shed, her heart heavy with the weight of the motel's dark history. The storm raged on, lightning illuminating the motel's abandoned swimming pool. She knew that the only way to end the terror was to confront the malevolent entity head-on. As she stood by the pool, the figure materialized before her, its form distorted and grotesque. Rachel's fear transformed into a fierce resolve as she faced the embodiment of evil. She chanted words of protection and strength, her voice a defiant declaration of her will to survive. The motel grounds became a battleground as Rachel and the entity clashed in a cataclysmic struggle. Lightning illuminated their every move, casting an otherworldly glow on the scene. Rachel ducked and dodged, narrowly avoiding the entity's attacks while delivering her own fierce blows. With each strike, the entity's form wavered, its power weakening. Rachel's determination never wavered as she channeled her fear into strength. She summoned every ounce of courage, every shard of her will, until finally, with a final powerful blow, the entity dissipated into a swirling vortex of shadows. The storm began to subside, and the air grew still as the entity's presence vanished. Rachel stood, breathless and battered, victorious over the malevolent force that had haunted the motel. She knew that the curse had been broken, that the motel was finally free from the grip of darkness. As dawn broke, Rachel emerged from the motel grounds, her body aching but her spirit unbroken. The Golden Sunset Motel, once a place of terror and despair, stood as a testament to her bravery and resilience. Its dark past was replaced by a glimmer of hope, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable horror, the strength of the human spirit could prevail. And as the first rays of sunlight bathed the motel in a golden hue, the sign flickered to life once more, a beacon of promise and renewal for those who passed by. The shadows of the forgotten motel had been banished, replaced by the warmth of a new day. Weeks had passed since Rachel's harrowing encounter at the Golden Sunset Motel, yet the memories still haunted her every waking moment. Despite her efforts to move on, the echoes of that night lingered in her dreams, an ever-present reminder of the darkness she had faced. Determined to find closure, Rachel delved deeper into the motel's history. She scoured local archives, seeking answers to the questions that had plagued her since that fateful night. As she unearthed forgotten tales of the cult that had once called the motel home, Rachel realized that the malevolent entity she had encountered was just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Rachel's obsession with the Golden Sunset Motel grew, driving her back to its doorstep. Armed with newfound knowledge, she arrived at the town once again, her heart set on unraveling the motel's secrets once and for all. The town had changed little since her last visit. Its streets were quiet, its residents oblivious to the darkness that lurked within the motel's walls. Upon her return to the motel, Rachel felt a familiar chill in the air. The wind whispered tales of forgotten horrors, and shadows seemed to dance in the corners of her vision. She stood before the motel, a mixture of trepidation and determination coursing through her veins. Rachel entered the lobby, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The same disheveled man, Walter, greeted her with a vacant stare. "Welcome back," he muttered, his voice devoid of emotion. Rachel's heart raced as she requested room 13 once more, the room where her nightmare had begun. Inside the room, Rachel's gaze swept over the familiar surroundings. The walls held the memories of that night, the whispers and shadows that had nearly consumed her. Determined to face her fears, she retraced her steps, reliving the moments of her desperate struggle for survival. As Rachel explored the motel, she discovered a hidden passage that led her to the basement, a place untouched by time. The air grew heavier, leaden with the weight of forgotten rituals and malevolent intentions. Old journals, similar to the one she had found in the shed, lined the walls, chronicling the cult's sinister practices. The basement seemed to pulse with an eerie energy, as if the walls themselves held the memories of the horrors that had transpired within. Rachel's heart pounded as she pieced together the puzzle, realizing that the malevolent entity she had battled was just one of the many spirits trapped within the motel's walls. As night fell, a storm raged outside, its fury mirroring the turmoil within the motel. Rachel's determination burned brighter as she delved deeper into the basement's secrets. She uncovered a ritual that had been used to bind the spirits to the motel, a ritual that could potentially free them from their torment. Armed with the knowledge she had gathered, Rachel prepared herself for a confrontation that would test her resolve and courage. The malevolent spirits sensed her presence, their whispers growing louder, their shadows more menacing. But Rachel was undeterred, her will unbreakable. In the heart of the basement, Rachel stood, surrounded by the oppressive energy of the malevolent spirits. She began the ritual, her voice steady as she recited ancient words of power. The air crackled with tension, and the room seemed to tremble as the spirits fought against her efforts. A fierce battle ensued, as the spirits unleashed their wrath upon Rachel. Shadows coalesced into sinister forms, and whispers filled the air like a cacophony of malevolent voices. But Rachel's determination was unwavering, and she channeled the strength of her will into the ritual, her voice rising above the darkness. As Rachel's voice reached a crescendo, a blinding light enveloped the basement, dispelling the shadows and banishing the malevolent spirits. The room trembled as the spirits' energy dissipated, their tormented visages fading into nothingness. Rachel's heart swelled with a sense of accomplishment and relief as the ritual's power took hold. The storm outside began to subside, its fury quelled by the forces that had clashed within the motel's walls. Rachel emerged from the basement, her body weary, but her spirit triumphant. The Golden Sunset Motel was finally free from the grip of darkness, its haunting legacy shattered by her courage and determination. As the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, Rachel stood outside the motel, the weight of the past lifting from her shoulders. The once faded sign of the Golden Sunset Motel now glowed with renewed vitality, its neon letters a symbol of the victory over the forces of evil that had once plagued its halls. Rachel knew that her journey was not just one of survival, but of redemption. The town, once shrouded in ignorance, would now know the truth of the motel's dark history. The shadows that had lingered for decades had been vanquished, replaced by a newfound sense of hope and renewal. As Rachel prepared to leave the town behind, she took one final look at the Golden Sunset Motel. The memories of her harrowing experience would forever be etched in her mind, a reminder of the strength she had found within herself. She knew that her journey had been a testament to the power of resilience and the triumph of light over darkness. With a determined smile, Rachel turned away from the motel, ready to embrace the future that awaited her. The road stretched out before her, a symbol of endless possibilities and the promise of a life free from the shadows of the past. Years later, the legend of Rachel's bravery spread throughout the town, becoming a whispered tale passed down through generations. The Golden Sunset Motel underwent a transformation, its tainted history replaced by stories of redemption and triumph. The town itself flourished, no longer burdened by the malevolent forces that had once threatened its existence. Yet, as the years went by, a lingering mystery remained. The old journals and forgotten rituals hinted at a greater darkness that had existed beyond the walls of the motel. Some believed that the malevolent spirits were not the only ones bound by the cult's rituals, that there were other forces lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unearthed. The abandoned construction site stood as a testament to shattered dreams and unfulfilled ambitions. Cranes reached toward the sky like skeletal hands, their rusted frames a stark contrast to the empty horizon. Among the overgrown weeds and broken machinery, the site exuded an eerie aura, a place where time had halted, leaving behind only echoes of desolation. A group of urban explorers had ventured into the site, drawn by its history and the promise of a spine-chilling adventure. Mark, Sarah, Alex, and Lisa were united by their curiosity and a shared fascination with the macabre. Armed with flashlights and adrenaline, they stepped into the heart of the construction site, oblivious to the horrors that awaited them. As the explorers ventured deeper, the air grew heavy with an oppressive silence. The site seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy, and shadows danced along the edges of their vision. Whispers, soft and indistinct, carried on the wind, sending shivers down their spines. Sarah's flashlight flickered, casting a fleeting beam of light on a half-finished building. The structure loomed like a forgotten relic, its windows shattered, and its walls marked by graffiti. Lisa's voice trembled as she captured the eerie scene on her camera, her excitement tinged with a growing unease. As they explored further, the group stumbled upon an underground tunnel entrance. The tunnel's gaping maw seemed to beckon them with an air of foreboding, yet they couldn't resist the allure of uncovering hidden secrets. With a shared glance, they ventured into the darkness, their footsteps echoing along the cold, damp corridor. As they moved deeper into the tunnel, the whispers grew louder, their words distorted and incomprehensible. Mark's flashlight beam revealed a series of faded photographs on the tunnel walls. Images of construction workers, their faces marked by exhaustion and determination. But there was something unsettling about their gazes, as if they were trapped between worlds, forever frozen in time. The tunnel led them to an underground chamber, its walls adorned with arcane symbols and fading murals. The air grew colder, and the whispers seemed to coalesce into a chorus of voices that reverberated through the chamber. Sarah's heart raced as she realized that they were not alone. A presence lingered in the shadows, a malevolent force that seemed to feed on their fear. A sudden draft blew out their flashlights, plunging them into darkness. Panic gripped the group as they fumbled to relight their flashlights, their trembling hands revealing the depth of their terror. The whispers seemed to close in, their words growing clearer, a haunting incantation that spoke of sacrifice and the thirst for power. As the flashlights flickered back to life, the explorers found themselves surrounded by a circle of spectral figures. The construction workers from the photographs stood before them, their eyes empty voids that seemed to pierce through the darkness. The chamber itself seemed to warp and shift, its walls pulsating with an otherworldly energy. The group backed against the chamber wall, their fear reaching a fever pitch. The spectral figures moved with an unnatural grace, their movements synchronized as if part of a sinister ritual. A chilling voice, disembodied yet commanding, echoed through the chamber, a voice that seemed to resonate within their very bones. Time seemed to blur as the explorers made their decision. With the ancient book as their guide, they enacted the ritual, their voices carrying the weight of a desperate hope. The chamber trembled as energy crackled through the air, the spectral figures writhing in anguish. The chamber's walls began to crumble, its foundation shaking as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. The explorers knew that their sacrifice was the only way to break the curse, to save themselves and the trapped souls from an eternity of torment. With determination fueling their actions, the explorers scoured the chamber for clues. Sarah stumbled upon an ancient book, its pages filled with incantations and rituals. It spoke of a ritual that could sever the connection between the spectral figures and the construction site, but its execution came with a heavy price. The explorers faced a moral dilemma. To break the cycle and free the trapped souls, they would have to offer their own lives as the final sacrifice. As they debated their options, the chamber grew colder, the spectral figures closing in with a sense of urgency. Time seemed to blur as the explorers made their decision. With the ancient book as their guide, they enacted the ritual, their voices carrying the weight of a desperate hope. The chamber trembled as energy crackled through the air, the spectral figures writhing in anguish. The chamber's walls began to crumble, its foundation shaking as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. The explorers knew that their sacrifice was the only way to break the curse, to save themselves and the trapped souls from an eternity of torment. As the ritual reached its climax, the chamber's walls disintegrated in a blinding burst of light. The explorers felt their bodies disperse like smoke, their essence merging with the energy that had been unleashed. The construction site trembled, its haunting aura dissipating into the wind. When the light faded, the construction site lay in ruins, the remnants of the past erased by the force of the ritual. The spectral figures had vanished, their chains broken by the sacrifice of the explorers. The air was still, a heavy silence replacing the whispers and the malevolent energy. In the aftermath, the construction site became a place of renewed hope and transformation. The ruins were cleared, and the land was repurposed for a memorial, a place to honor the lives that had been lost, and to remember the courage of those who had faced the unknown. The urban explorer's sacrifice became a legend, a tale passed down through generations, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of selflessness. And though the construction site was forever changed, its echoes of desolation had been replaced by echoes of redemption, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, light could ultimately prevail. Nestled in the heart of a remote village, life continued as usual despite the news of an impending hurricane. The villagers had weathered many storms before, and this one was expected to be no different. Among them was Emma, a young woman who had returned to the village after years of living in the city. She had come seeking solace and a fresh start, but little did she know that her arrival would coincide with the most terrifying night of her life. As the sun set, the air grew thick with tension. The sky darkened, and the wind began to howl. The villagers hurried to secure their homes and gather supplies, their faces etched with a mix of apprehension and determination. Among them was William, the village elder, who carried an air of wisdom and foresight. He had seen hurricanes come and go, but he sensed something different about this one. As the hurricane drew nearer, an unsettling aura settled over the village. The wind carried whispers that seemed to dance on the edge of hearing, leaving a feeling of unease in their wake. Emma noticed the villagers exchanging nervous glances, their eyes haunted by the approaching storm. Night fell, and the rain began to pour. The once familiar streets turned into rivers, and the howling wind drowned out any attempts at communication. Emma huddled in her cottage, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, adding to the sense of foreboding that permeated the air. Amid the chaos of the storm, Emma heard a frantic knocking at her door. When she opened it, she found William, drenched and his eyes wide with fear. He had come to warn her, his voice barely audible over the tempest. "Listen carefully, Emma. There's something you need to know." William's voice trembled as he spoke of an ancient legend that had plagued the village for generations. It told of a malevolent presence that emerged during the most ferocious hurricanes, seeking to claim the souls of the villagers. The legend had always been dismissed as superstition, but William's eyes held a conviction that sent a chill down Emma's spine. As William spoke, a loud crash echoed through the village. The wind had torn the roof off a nearby cottage, exposing its interior to the elements. Emma's heart raced as she realized that they were running out of time. William implored her to take shelter in the village church, believing it to be the safest place during the storm. As they made their way through the rain-soaked streets, Emma's senses were assaulted by the howling wind and the relentless rain. The once familiar village had transformed into a nightmarish landscape, and the whispers that had been carried by the wind seemed to grow louder and more insistent. Inside the church, the villagers had sought refuge from the storm. The atmosphere was tense, a mixture of fear and uncertainty hanging in the air. Emma listened as William addressed the villagers, his voice carrying a blend of authority and desperation. He urged them to stay together, to remain vigilant as the hurricane raged outside. As the night wore on, the storm's intensity seemed to increase. Thunder cracked like cannon fire, and lightning illuminated the stained glass windows in erratic bursts. The whispers that had haunted the air outside now seeped into the church, their eerie cadence causing a collective shiver to run through the villagers. As the hurricane's fury showed no signs of abating, William revealed a plan to protect the village from the malevolent presence that the legend spoke of. He explained that an ancient ritual, passed down through generations, could banish the entity and restore peace to the village. The villagers gathered in a circle, their faces illuminated by the flickering candlelight. William led the ritual, his voice carrying the weight of generations past. Emma watched as the villagers chanted in unison, their words merging into a haunting melody that seemed to harmonize with the storm itself. As the ritual reached its crescendo, the church windows rattled, and a powerful gust of wind extinguished the candles. The room plunged into darkness, and the villagers' voices faltered. A presence seemed to materialize at the center of the circle, its form shrouded in shadows. Emma's heart raced as the entity's gaze seemed to pierce through her. She watched in horror as it began to take shape, its features distorted and grotesque. The villagers' voices trembled as they continued the ritual, their determination unwavering even in the face of the malevolent entity's presence. The room was a battleground of conflicting energies. The villagers' chants clashed with the entity's malevolence. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the struggle within the church. The air crackled with tension, and the entity's form wavered as if struggling to maintain its grip. Emma, her fear overridden by determination, stepped forward and joined the villagers in their chants. The unity of their voices seemed to strengthen the ritual's power, pushing back against the darkness that sought to engulf them. The hurricane outside roared in response, its fury echoing the tumultuous battle within the church. As the storm raged on, the entity's form grew weaker, its malevolence dissipating like smoke in the wind. The villagers' voices grew stronger, their chants infused with a newfound sense of hope and defiance. With a final surge of energy, the ritual reached its climax, a blinding burst of light illuminating the room. When the light faded, the entity was gone. The room was still, the storm's fury abating as quickly as it had arrived. The villagers stood, their faces marked by exhaustion and relief. The legend that had haunted the village for generations had been confronted and conquered, its malevolent grip broken by the villagers' unity and courage. As the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, the village emerged from the church, its inhabitants weary but triumphant. The once roaring hurricane had been quelled, its power no match for the villagers' determination to protect their home. In the aftermath, the villagers gathered to celebrate their victory over the malevolent entity. They sang songs of unity and resilience, their voices echoing through the now calm village. Emma stood among them, her heart filled with a newfound sense of belonging. The village had weathered the storm, and in doing so, had forged bonds that would last a lifetime. And as the sun's warmth bathed the village in a golden glow, the legend that had once filled the villagers with fear became a tale of courage and triumph. The whispers of the tempest had been silenced, replaced by a resounding chorus of hope and resilience that would echo through the generations to come.